Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Pot Noodle by Celtic Down Under. I'm your host, Shane, and joining me tonight is me. That's right, it's a solo Pot Noodle tonight, gang. Unfortunately, Jared is off tonight. I'm filling in for Jared, who's off tending to his wife, who's unfortunately a bit crook at the moment. So, Jared, shout out to you, mate. Hopefully, she's feeling better soon. So, it's just me tonight, gang, and I'll be going through the game on the weekend against Aberdeen, touching on that a fair bit, talking about what this does for Wilfred Nancy and whether it makes any difference to him and his current tenure at Celtic. And then we'll look forward to the game against Livy coming up later in the week. But before I get into that, obviously just want to give a shout out to everyone who's joined so far. Shout out to those who are in the comments. A few people have jumped in really early with some comments throughout. I appreciate your support as always. We're always trying to grow the channel. We're always trying to get more people involved, of course. So we're on across all the socials. So Instagram, X, Facebook, YouTube, of course, where you're watching us right now. So if you're keen, get involved. And if you know someone that you think would be interested, let them know. Give them the details about the channel. Get them involved. We're always keen to see more people jump on board, get involved with the live podcasts. Add comments and just tune in to the content we're providing. So, thank you for those joining me already. We might get to a couple of the comments early. I appreciate the support. Party Rockers in the house tonight. Every day I'm waffling. It's a very apt title for me. Those of you who know when I join the pod, there's a fair bit of waffle that goes on. And with a solo pod tonight with me in charge, it could be going to strange new territories. So maybe pop the kettle on, get a biscuit, maybe even get dinner ready, or actually it'd be breakfast if you're overseas. It might go a while. How heavy vibes? Almost forgot how good it feels to win. Yeah, it was feeling that way. That's for sure. It definitely was starting to feel a little bit onerous, a little bit worrisome every time we played. McLaughlin P, the amount of crap you read on social media can folk no longer be happy we won a game and give the guy a break for a couple of hours. I'll touch on that a bit later, but I definitely agree with your comment in earnest, that's for sure. G'day to you, Andrew. Thanks for joining us as always. Mahesh, good to see you in the comments nice and early. Yes, definitely in one of my comments, I've noted down the woodwork. There's an adjective in front of the word woodwork. I can't read it out because we're so early on in the pod, but you can imagine what it was considering how many times we hit the bar. But really good comment there. How, Mark McDonald. Decent showing. Still need a striker. Absolutely. We'll definitely touch on that. Yes, absolutely. Yes. I think we're all feeling very similar, McLaughlin, when Aberdeen put that ball in the back of the net. And Andrew, I'll get to your comment. We had a good run of luck under Martin. We've had some rotten luck under Nancy. Hopefully it starts to even out. Absolutely, mate. And I think that's something we'll get into a little bit on later in the pod. So, look, a little bit of a different setup tonight. Bear with me. It might be a few teething issues, of course. Apologies in advance for any kind of slowness or anything like that we go through. And I'll try and make it as comment heavy as possible just to keep the show really nice and interactive. But we'll get straight into the match, shall we? So the result: Celtic 3, Aberdeen 1. So let's get into the lineup as we always do, shall we? And I'll go through the team that ran out on the pitch. So we had Kasper Schmeichel in goal. We had a back three of Kieran Tierney, Austin Trusty, and Anthony Ralston. Our wing backs, and I use that in inverted comments, were McCowan and Yang. Midfield four of McGregor, Engels, Negrin, and Maeda, if you will. And again, I'll talk about that a little bit later. And Kenny leading the line up top. So, look, I'll give you my general take going into the game, how I felt. A little bit nervous. To be honest with you, it's been a little while since I've had that kind of trepidation for a league match at Paradise. With the previous results that we'd seen and the performances under Nancy, I wasn't too sure what to expect against Aberdeen. I was a little bit worried about what we were going to produce. In fact, I thought that they were going to hold us to a draw, to be honest with you. So, and I'm just not used to having that kind of I'm just not used to having that kind of concern with a Celtic team running out at Paradise domestically at the very least. So it was very interesting to see how we approached it. I'll definitely get to your comments shortly just to see how you felt about it. But my feeling was one of a little bit of concern, and I think most people felt a similar way. To be honest with you, I think we all were a little bit concerned and wanted to see exactly how we were going to respond to another difficult result out at Tannadice and what turned out to be a pretty poor second half performance. So, in terms of the lineup itself. Look, a couple of little surprises. Obviously, the persisting of McCowan as a left wing back, and again, I use that term in an inverted capacity because he's not really playing wing back really when he's out there. Obviously, up top, having Maeda still there, wasn't really liking sort of the way he was being used in that 10 role, but Nancy wanted to persist with it. And again, getting into the match, you'll sort of see how that unfolded a little bit. But everything else picked itself, to be honest with you. So there wasn't too many surprises for me. But getting into the first half performance, and something I really wanted to focus on was the positivity. I thought it was a really good first half performance. Generally speaking, I thought there was great tempo to our play. I thought we moved the ball really well. I thought we were getting the ball into good areas. I felt like we were making things happen. We were clearly making things happen. Let's be honest with you. There was one or maybe two key issues. One, we still looked very susceptible at the back, which was when Aberdeen seemed to have their best opportunities where they were able to play the long ball out and get it over the top. And shout out to Austin Trust, who made a couple of key interventions one-on-one. But also our wastefulness in front of goal, which unfortunately, I should say, has been a pattern for a little while. We created a number of gilt-edged chances in that first half, and we were guilty of missing pretty much all of them. Kenny had some wonderful opportunities, which he should have actually taken advantage of, and he didn't. We had Engels one sky over the bar. We haven't had Maeda fail to find the back of the net from an opportunity where he should have really made the keeper work. So, honestly, that first half, we could have easily been out of sight. And you know, that's not exactly something that's too unfamiliar to us, really. But look, I thought we still played well. Aberdeen didn't really generate anything, in all honesty. They had a couple of moments, couple of last tackles. Outside of that, they never really got on the ball and controlled anything. And I thought we kept our tempo and our energy going for pretty much the whole 45. I thought we were really good at pushing them and getting the ball into the right areas. And so it came to pass that we eventually got a goal. But obviously just prior to that was the red card, which, if I can touch on that pretty briefly, I don't think we need to go into too much about it. It's clear red. It's a really poor pass from Mitov, and the young boy, Lobben, gets on the ball, or can't get on the ball, I should say. Maeda nips in front of him. It's very minimal contact, but it's there, and it stops the goal-scoring opportunity. It's a red card every day of the week. And obviously that then led to what we saw, which was shortly afterwards, which was the goal unfold, which was good work from Yang, who'd initially lost the ball. We moved over to the left to win it back. Lovely little bit of link-up play between McCowan and Maeda. Fantastic ball across. Kenny, to his credit, makes a really good run near post, which opens up the space for Negrin, and he's able to finish from close range. And I think we all would have collectively smashed our TVs or whatever devices we were on if Negrin had managed to miss that. So going in at halftime, 1-0 up, nowhere near reflective of the dominance we had in the game, but a deserved lead nonetheless. And to be honest with you, against Dundee, similarly against St Mirren in the first half, there were positive signs, and really the second half that we had to worry about. So, definitely still a little bit of concern going into that second half, but was very happy with what I saw in that first 45. I'll get to a couple of your comments now, just so I'm not leaving you out in the lurch there. So just bear with me for a second. So Mahesh, I'll get you involved straight away. And yes, Aberdeen were able to transition enough, and I don't want to preempt the discussion, but obviously they were able to do that in the second half. want to get to this comment here from Andrew Galea. The 2-6s, Calmac and Engels, are still getting used to the new roles as much as anyone. Agree with that, but I also think that they were two of our best players on the pitch yesterday. I'll sort of get into the positives that I saw from the match overall after I've gone through the second half. Mahesh, just to get to your point from earlier, I think this is a really good comment. I was going to touch on this later, but I might bring it up now. Yes, we've definitely seen a fair bit of, defensive exposure and lapture under Nancy so far, and it does feel like we're really susceptible with that high line to balls over the top and opposition getting in behind, particularly on a fast break. But my recollection of Ange's first season as well, and I'm a big Ange supporter, as everybody knows, we had a very similar issue initially while everyone got used to their roles and their position in that new line. And I think Mahesh, your comment's pretty spot on for me. There's a lot of parallels there to when Ange first came in, and similar kind of goals conceded or chances conceded. The difference obviously being that Ange had a pre-season and an early run of fixtures to right that ship, whereas obviously Nancy doesn't have that benefit to do that. So good comment, Mahesh. I do agree with you on that front. Robert, shout out to you. I think you're excited about obviously not sharing maybe the level of positivity I have there, Robert, but all good. Thanks for being in the comments as always. Appreciate your support. Shout out to you, Bonnie. Thanks for your support as always. Thanks for getting on board. Andrew, Maeda and Yang seem to be settling into their winger roles under Nancy. Yes. I might touch on that really briefly. It's something I picked up on in the first half, was that, and I sort of mentioned this at the start there, we had McCowan kind of listed as playing that wing-back role on the left, but he wasn't really, in all honesty. He was sort of drifting inside pretty much exclusively, and that kind of led Tierney and Maeda to play and provide more of that width. I thought that was the most effective I'd seen Maeda under Nancy so far. Maeda was drifting wide, and he was taking up a really good position out wide. It felt like it was creating a bit of space inside. He didn't seem as isolated as he had sort of playing that kind of restricted 10 role as a few weeks ago. So, and then Tierney, who I think's probably been one of the big positives so far under Nancy's new system, he continued his good form. So anyway, we'll touch on the second half as well. And so what was most pleasing for me about the second half is from the get-go, we actually continued with the energy and the tempo and the chances that we were creating in the first half. Not even under Nancy, but prior to Nancy, we've often seen a Celtic team put in a really good first 45 minutes, and then come out in the second half and be a little bit sort of tepid and maybe take a while to find their feet. And Nancy's definitely had, a lot of issues with that so far in his 5 games. But I thought we did a really good job of trying to keep the foot on the throat, metaphorically speaking. And, if it wasn't for that damn woodwork, the upright, the crossbar, whichever part of the goal you want to flag as the problem, if it wasn't for that, we would have been out of sight very, very quickly. There were about at least 3 crosses that I can remember off the top of my head that basically parried into the upright of the crossbar, particularly from the left. It was just unheard of. I couldn't think. I just had this nagging fear in my mind that with the amount of times that we'd hit the woodwork, that something was going to come back and unfortunately bite us. And I hate to be the bearer of bad news when that happens, but unfortunately it came to pass. But look, I'll touch on a few things early on. I still think we kept pretty much the same tempo. I thought we were still really good with shifting the ball. It felt like everything really that we were creating was still coming down the left, and the right was still providing as much, but that left side was where most of what we were generating was coming from. And Tierney and Maeda continued that really good link up. I want to bring up this comment from Andrew Galea because I agree with it wholeheartedly, and particularly in the second half, Mitov did a fantastic job. How good was that save from Calmac? That Calmac shot was in for all money. How he's managed to save that is beyond me. And, I can't tell if Calmac was applauding the ball that came across or whether he's applauding Mitov, but part of me, the good sportsmanship, would like to think he was actually applauding Mitov because it was a tremendous save. But I still thought we were doing a really good job. We just couldn't put them away, unfortunately. What I will touch on in the second half that kind of threw me a little bit was a couple of the subs from Nancy, and in particular the bringing on of Liam Scales. And I just thought it is just disrupted us a little bit, and I found it a little bit odd. We'd had a back three that obviously is still a little bit susceptible to, you know, counterattacks and transition football, but they probably looked the most settled they had out of the format or out of the previous four matches compared to the Aberdeen game. And I found the decision to bring Scales in and move Tierney forward just a little bit strange. I thought the left side was working pretty well. We've obviously commented on previous weeks for Scales and sort of his lack of fitting into this system and maybe some of the confidence issues he's had. And I found that decision a little bit strange, and I thought it just disrupted us a little bit. I'm not saying it was completely responsible for them and their goal, but I thought that just took away a little bit of the momentum we had, and it's not a change I would have made. If there was a need to replace McCowan as the wingback, to be honest with you, I probably would have put Scales in that role and left Tierney at left centre back, who I think was performing very well there. But obviously, as I was saying before, we didn't really put them away, and unfortunately, they did get that goal. It was a moment of good fortune, really. Maeda had done a really good job to track back and win the ball. Unfortunately, he didn't win it cleanly. The Aberdeen player took it away. Scales had gambled a little bit. Scales was actually in a pretty good position to actually front up to the Aberdeen player if they got through, but he'd actually sort of thought Maeda had won the ball, moved forward in expectation, and then by the time he'd realised he'd lost it, it was too late. They were able to, I'm not too sure who the player was. I think it was, let me see if my notes have it correctly. Bilalovic scored the goal. It was Knutson who put the ball through. Really good threaded pass. And there was not much really that Schmeichel could have done about that. So I think at this point, everybody, myself included, was just sort of, we're sort of sitting there going, right, how is this happening again? And it was particularly galling compared to the previous four fixtures, most certainly the previous three league fixtures, because we'd absolutely bossed from Aberdeen from go to woe. And so this was a complete and utter shock. And so it was a moment there of just wondering, to refer to a comment earlier, is Nancy cursed the Celtic? Fortunately, that's not the case. And we actually continued to put the foot on the throat after that and really went for that winner. And they sat everyone behind the ball. We had the low block again that we had to deal with. But we kept peppering away. We kept probing. And that chance eventually came with a great ball in from Colby Donovan, who obviously got brought on straight swap for Ralston. Wonderful cross across the box, I should say. Getting my words mixed up there. And Tierney in the right spot at the right time just nods at home. And rich reward for him personally for a fantastic game, but a real sense of palpable relief. I don't know how everyone else felt watching it, but I definitely felt a very. I just felt relieved. I'm not gonna try and lie. And then what was great about that is we looked for the third. They had to come out and try and get that equaliser again. It opened up a little bit of space, and then obviously Negrin gets on the ball. Lovely little run from Kalmack. Negrin finds him. Kalmack plays a wonderful ball across the box for Jamesy. Jamesy was a really good finish. I want to give a shout out to Jamesy. Obviously, not only is he scoring in another season again and keeping his wonderful record going, which is just remarkable and credit to him, but just his technique on the way he opens up his body with the finish. I'd highly recommend anybody check that out. It's a really class finish from a really class player. Opens up his body, opens up his foot nicely just to take the keeper out of it. It's a tidy finish, a real high-quality finish, one that shouldn't go unnoticed. And in the end, we were able to get there and hold on for a much-deserved win. And look, whatever you think of Wilfred Nancy so far, whatever you think of his time at Celtic, and I'll get into a bit of a discussion about that shortly. It was great to see him celebrate his first win as manager. It was great for him to see him celebrate with his assistants. You could sense the relief from Wilfred just in that momentary celebration after the final whistle. No, and I'm pleased for him. I know that I've personally spoken out and and found what he's produced so far to be really disappointing, and I've maintained that criticism. But I don't want to see him fail. I don't want to see this team fail, and it was so good to see him after his first win, and here's the hope that it's for many more. All right, so I might get to a couple of your comments if while I can. Getting to your comments stops me waffling on, and that's beneficial for everybody. Robert Gibson, probably be us against a decent side, Andrew. Nancy couldn't lead a fight to fresh water. Probably should have brought up Andrew's comments earlier, which I think that was in relation to. Andrew, the floodgates were open, someone's going to get a flogging. I'm getting similar vibes to Andrew's season with that comment, mate. Smell the glove, thanks for joining us. Good to see you in the comments as always. Trusty looks slower than me for the sheep goal, and I'm 20 stone. He was caught off the hop a little bit. As I said, I think there was just a little bit of expectation. Maeda had won the ball. You could see Scales had shifted forward in anticipation. Perhaps that's a folly on them. They should have been prepared and waited for Maeda to clearly have possession first. But I think it kind of tied into the way we were playing, which was constantly moving forward, trying to get the ball forward as quickly as possible. So it kind of tied into the way we were doing. I think they gambled a little bit, and sometimes you gamble and sometimes you lose. And it wasn't great, but yeah, that's what happens. On that comment, Mahesh, other than Maeda, Trusty fastest guy on the team, and CCV not far behind him. CCV and Trusty and Nancy's formation will make a big difference. It'll be interesting to see where CCV fits in. I imagine that when he's fit, he'll come in and fit at basically the central of the back three, and probably moving Trusty to the left. And maybe then we'll see Kieran Tierney actually play as a wing back more in that defined role. But let's wait to be seen. Tierney is better with the ball playing out. I thought Tierney is fantastic. He's one of the few players that have actually done really well under Nancy so far in these past couple of games. I've been really impressed with him, and it's no surprise when you think about it because he plays in the back three for Scotland. It makes sense that he's that he's fit into this system pretty well. But I also think he's been able to provide a lot going forward when he's been having to switch between wing back and left centre back as well. In fact, he actually gets forward a fair bit playing in that left centre back role. It's interesting how that left side kind of works. Your wing back really isn't a little bit of a traditional wing back. They sort of tuck in a bit more, and you've got that. As I said, Maeda and Tierney providing that width as of yesterday, whereas on the right it's a bit more pronounced. You've got Ralston at right centre back. You've got Yang sort of getting up and down the park and keeping that width. I'll start that comment for later. But yeah, so that's there's a couple of comments I'll bring up later just because I'll tie into a little bit more of the discussion I've got going forward. But in terms of man of the match, we'll get into that now. For me, look, it was Kieran Tierney. I've already sung his praises repeatedly throughout, but I thought he was fantastic whole game. Does his job well defensively, good on the ball, got forward at every opportunity. I love his link-up play. He does really well. He obviously scores the goal that puts us ahead again, which was really important late on. I thought he was tremendous. But someone I haven't mentioned who I thought had an excellent game too was Arne Engels. I thought Engels was fantastic. I thought he was really good. That midfield duo of McGregor and Engels were both solid, but I thought Engels was fantastic. I just love the way he plays. I love that when he gets on the ball, he's got good variety. He can put a good ball into the box as well. He can obviously whip a good cross in, which is something that we definitely need as part of the system. There's a fair bit of variety that goes on with what Nancy does, and we need that quality, and he has that in spades. And he's actually probably been also one of the positives under Nancy's new system. There hasn't been an awful lot of positives up until now, but he's been one of the few as well. So. Yeah, definitely a couple. But keen in the comments, of course, if you want to jump in, who was your man of the match? If you've got anybody that you think outside of Tierney and Engels, would appreciate the feedback. Obviously, Negrin scored the goal, and he probably played the best that he'd played for a couple of weeks. And yeah, I think they're probably the obvious candidates, to be honest. So yeah, all right. Well, we might move forward just into sort of what this result means in the grander scheme of things, and I'm keen to see what everyone thinks of this. So, what does this result actually do for Wilfred Nancy? Does this apart from the absolute fact that it takes a little bit of the pressure off, I think that's guaranteed, really. I'm keen to get what people think in terms of, does this actually, does everyone sort of see this as positively as me? I'll give you my take in a second, and then I'm keen to throw it open and see what other people think. For me, and I've been pretty critical of him, that was a really positive performance yesterday, and I'll give you sort of my takes on to why. Now, what I saw yesterday, which I hadn't seen in the previous 4 matches, was that we had, I felt players that seemed to know where they needed to be on the pitch. They felt like that there wasn't so much guesswork in terms of their position or where they needed to run or where they needed to move to create space. It felt like there was much more understanding of what their role was and what they needed to do and where they needed to be. I also noticed a lot more direction out, particularly on the part from Callum, which I hadn't seen in the previous few weeks, harking back more to under Ange and also to an extent under Brendan. And I think with that direction, there seemed to be a clear understanding of what was going on. And there seemed to be, far less loose passes yesterday, far less what I consider mistakes where players weren't where they needed to be, far more fluidity, far more connectiveness between the players. And that gave me pause for thought in terms of positivity. I sort of look at that and go, well, I think maybe it's starting to work, and we're starting to see some green shoots there. Now, I want to temper this by saying, of course, that they're just green shoots. I don't think this most certainly doesn't take away the previous 4 matches, and particularly the 3 in the league. It doesn't absolve Nancy of this and those failings in that. And we still saw some things to be negative about in the Aberdeen game. Most certainly that high line, that ability to concede a goal very quickly, and being profligate in front of goal, of course, which seems to be a constant theme for Celtic. It doesn't really matter who's in charge. It seems like we're very wasteful in front of goal. Clinicalness and Celtic don't seem to go hand in hand at times, let's be honest. But there were definitely some green shoots that I saw yesterday that have just given me pause for thought. Now, in terms of whether this buys him a little bit more time or not, I don't think so. I think we still have him under as not the same amount of pressure as he was prior to the Aberdeen game, but it could be undone if we lose away to Livy. So, still things to be positive about, and I'm definitely looking at this with a more positive light, depending on who you talk to. Some people saw yesterday as just a necessary result and not really any change in the way things are. I saw it a little bit differently, as I said. I saw it as a bit of a positive step forward. One that needs to be built on, though. I will stress that. So there's still definitely some concerns there. And as I said, not to repeat myself, it doesn't really, in fact, it doesn't at all absolve what we'd seen in the previous 4 matches. But there are some steps forward. There's some light at the end of the tunnel, I think, and I'm looking forward to seeing that light getting closer at the end of the week. But less of me waffling on. Let's get to a couple of your comments in relation to this. Smell the glove. This is sort of what I was preempting this discussion for. Do you think after yesterday more people are going to get behind Nancy as finally the poor guy gets a break? From my perspective, I think he'll definitely have a little bit of a pressure released off of him. It's natural when you win to have a few knockers sort of fall off and give you a bit more time. But the pressure will be well and truly back on in the event that we don't pick up 3 points away to Livy. I'll touch on that a bit later. Andrew, the win takes the pressure off the players. They're starting to get his system, and it's not rocket science. I think that's a fair comment. It was an adjustment, and I think we've obviously commented ad nauseum on this pod, as have others, to be honest, as well, in most Celtic media circles, that it is very difficult. It's an unenviable position to come in like Nancy has done and to make the kind of changes that he has. Should he have been able to make those changes, or should he have persisted with what he needed to? Instead of making such wholesale changes, particularly before a cup final and a couple of crucial fixtures, that's open to debate, really. But, if he is given the green light to come in and he wants to play his football and style, it's always going to be difficult to turn that around quickly. I don't know who you necessarily put the total fault on for that. I think it's a collective blame. Maybe he needs more awareness. maybe the board need to bring him in sooner. Maybe there needs to be a better handover plan. I think it all kind of falls in together. And Andrew, just to follow on from your comment, we've still got key players out. Squad is being tested. Absolutely agree with you wholeheartedly on that. Smell the glove. Back to you. Nancy needs to build on this. Watch Hearts vs Sun. Two bad long ball merchant teams. If Nancy finds a striker or two, but importantly sort out the defence, we can win this league and piss off the media. Well, I might just take a quick swig of my tea and then I'll go on to that discussion point because I think it's a really pertinent one. Look how kind I am putting everybody on mute so they don't hear the slurp. Let's talk about that. Let's get into that discussion now because, Andrew, you flagged something before which I think is worth discussing. And I'll tie in this discussion around that. Will we bring Kyogo back in January? I want to open this up to the comment section. Let's proceed with Nancy being in charge, or let's proceed in our mind with Nancy staying in charge until January and therefore being in charge when the transfer window opens. I'm keen to get everyone's take on what they think the first order or first orders, plural, there might be more than one, first orders of business that Nancy should be looking to take care of. I think there's a very obvious hole in our squad that needs to be filled at the moment, and that is alluding to what Andrew brought up before, which is striker. I think what we've seen over the past couple of weeks, and it's not all to blame, but profligacy in front of goal is terrible. And without a key striker, a clinical striker, I think it's going to be still very difficult for Nancy to win everybody over and get the results that he needs. And that was on show yesterday. You have a clinical striker up top. We're probably 2 or 3-0 ahead at halftime. We're out of sight, and we're probably having a win that's probably in the 5 or 6-0 category, and one that really takes the pressure off and puts everyone back on notice. But because we don't, we only eventually scrape through with a 3-1, which could have been so much more. And so definitely we need to reinforce our striker stocks in January, and that's something we must take care of. That's imperative. We must get a clinical striker in, someone who can lead the line. Can he look good under O'Neill? But, he hasn't necessarily done so under Nancy, and, didn't really under Brendan for the opportunities, prior to that. And so I think it's, I don't think this is really suiting him, and he's had the opportunity to stake his claim as he did yesterday, and he didn't really take that opportunity. I'm not too sure how Maeda leading this line looks like, to be honest with you. I thought his best work so far in this system has been out wide, as we saw yesterday, so I'd like to continue with that. It wasn't too bad when he had to switch centrally, but with the variety that Nancy sort of, I guess, implores in this system, you kind of need a striker that can not only sort of play off the shoulder, but can hold up and even win the header, really, with a couple of the crosses coming in, right? So it's debatable whether we need someone like a Dembele type character back in, just as an example. But one thing's for certain, we need a clinical striker in January. I think we also need probably to look at our centre half stocks and just really see if we're satisfied with what we've got with the back three. Now, bearing in mind, there's obviously a couple of injuries. CCV's out for the whole season. He won't be coming back. Alistair Johnston, who I think we're all pretty convinced will be that starting right back when he's fit again, obviously still out for a little while. Are we happy with the back three that we've got at the moment with Tierney, Trusty, and Ralston? Is there the potential for improvement there? I think it's probably an area we need to look at. One thing I probably initially would have thought we needed to strengthen, but probably don't at the moment, is midfield. I'm liking the way that's working at the moment. I think there's plenty of positive signs there. So it'll be good to, it'll be good to let that continue to develop, particularly the partnership of Engels and Calmac. I think they're working really well, and you can tell they're starting to develop a bit of a synergy there. So let's see how that goes. And obviously left wing back is probably the other obvious candidate. If we're looking at Tierney playing left centre back, are we satisfied with McCowan in that system? He's obviously, I think from what I've gathered from some rumours, has voiced an opinion allegedly that, I stress allegedly, just so the channel doesn't get in trouble, that he isn't so much a wing back or doesn't like to play that role. I think it's very noticeable that he sort of really drifts inside. probably more at direction as opposed to him playing free roam or anything like that. But if we need an actual proper left wing back, are we putting Yang back there? Are we going to try Tanetki there, or do we look for Tierney and put a left centre back in? There's plenty to unpack there. Let's get to a couple of comments, shall we? So Robert Gibson, a striker who doesn't have a pension card and need a fucking seeing eye dog would be a star. Robert clearly happy with our wastefulness in front of goal. Only joking, Robert. Can Shin step? Kenny's took a step back. Look, I'm not too sure. I would be interested to see Yamada get a start next game. Obviously, bearing in mind it's away to Livy at the Spaghetti Head. So not exactly the best place to go when you're trying to find your feet as a starting striker. But he's definitely worth a shot. So yes, I'd be looking to start Yamada at the next game. Obviously, Andrew, Yamada needs to start next game. Kenny down on confidence. Yes, I agree. It's very difficult for Kenny to sort of, very difficult for any striker to be in that position and miss those opportunities and then sort of keep that same level of confidence. I have no doubt they're probably working behind the scenes to make sure he keeps his head up and make sure that when his moment does come, he takes it with both hands. But I think the time's come to give Yamada the start. I can't remember the last time he started. I don't think he started in this system yet from recollection. And I'd be keen to see how he goes. Andrew Galea, I hope Inamura gets a look in at some point. He's got a great range of passing. Yeah, I would be keen to see Inamura get a look in, particularly in the system we're playing. Obviously, with that wing-back role, you need to be able to get up and down the park. You've still got to defend, but obviously with a back three, a centre-half pairing like that, I guess that you've got a bit more luxury to maybe not be lax on your defensive duties, but perhaps they're not as exposed as when it's a back four and you're playing as primarily as a left back. I think it would be good to get Inamura in, sort of talking about that left wing back role. I think it all depends a little bit on whether Wilfred's going to go down the line of actually having a left back that stays wide and provides width, because we didn't really see that yesterday, in my opinion. Maybe that's just my untrained eye, but we didn't really see that we didn't really see that as part of yesterday's game. Craigie White, good to see you in the comments as always. Can we get behind Nancy, please? He needs the window. I am frustrated like the rest, but come on. It's interesting the kind of feedback we're seeing. We're definitely getting across the socials and sort of all the channels that I sort of check in on. We're definitely seeing a mixed bag. As I said before, we're seeing a lot of people who saw this win as probably in the same vein that I did. A little bit of some green shoots, some positivity going forward, something to work with. Most certainly not anything to lock in and say, yes, we've done it, but definitely stuff to work with. But there's a few that obviously are a little bit, will need a bit more time to be won over. And I think that's fair as well, based on what we've seen. I tend to find I'm skirting between the middle and more positivity at the moment, but I can easily be dragged back to the middle, realizing that up until the Aberdeen game, we'd lost 4 in a row, the first time in an extremely long time, and 3 domestic games in a row. It's not something that this club does. It's a complete shock to the system, and it's something that we shouldn't do, in all honesty. So I think people's concerns and frustration, and if they haven't exactly got behind him just yet, are still pretty valid, and I wouldn't write anyone off for that and critique that. But I also think the positivity, if people want to look at it with the green shoots, I think that's very valid and can confirm that's definitely where I see myself probably more at the moment, in all honesty. So, interesting sort of discussion there. A couple of the comments. I think there's definitely the vibe in the comments section here is definitely around striker needing to be filled, and as I said, you have a quality striker on the park yesterday. We probably win that 4 or 5-0, if not more, and then all of a sudden that pressure valve is just alleviated so much more. And then it looks like this team's pretty much kicking on all cylinders in some regard. So definitely something we need to bring up. Robert, I don't know if you wanted me to bring this up to give away your age at all, but 1978 was the last time we lost 4 in a row. I was 12 years old and still in Glasgow. Yes, I was I wasn't even close to being born yet, to be honest with you. That's just how young I am. And that's not an age flex in any capacity. All right, so I think now we'll just look forward to the next game against Livy, and then we'll look to wrap up this week's pod. So as I mentioned, we've got Livingston away at the Spaghetti Had, and Livy. Last time I checked, and I'm going to do a quick fact check live on air. Clearly, very prepared this evening. Livy are last in the league, still with only one win so far, and they lost their last game to St Mirren 1-0. So, the positivity, if I can be pretty blunt with you straight up, the positivity that's been won over with me and a number of others will pretty much be lost if we don't take all 3 points away at Livy this coming week. They have been terrible this season, and this is exactly the kind of team that we need to be making sure we get all 3 points against, particularly whilst Nancy is still tinkering and trying to find how this system works and the personnel for it that he's completely satisfied with it. And it's absolutely important that we make sure we go to the Spaghetti Had and we take all 3 points back with us. I know there might be a few people jump into the comments and it might allude to the fact that it is a bit of a tough place for a few teams to go and has been a little bit of a banana peel for us previously. But the simple fact is that if Nancy wants to win everybody over, and if Nancy wants to prove that this team is going forward and he's the right person to lead it, then we take all 3 points against Livy and nothing less. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. So look, let's just do a quick preview on that one. So I don't think we're going to see too dissimilar a team against Livy to the one that we saw against Aberdeen, purely because I thought it worked so very well. I'm not too sure if we've got anyone out in terms of yellow card suspension or so forth. Obviously we've got a couple of injuries, but I think we're going to see a very similar starting 11 like the one that we did against Aberdeen. So we'll obviously have Smeichel in goal, back three of Tierney, Trusty, and Ralston. I think we'll probably see the persistence of McCowan and Yang as the wingbacks, McGregor and Engels in the midfield, along with Niga and Maeda. And I think probably the only change is Yamada comes in to lead the line. And it'll be interesting to see how he goes in a similar role. I think we'll play a very similar way. I think we will look to pretty much play exactly as we had done against Aberdeen. And I know that sounds like it's Captain Obvious there, but there was so much to like about that performance and the way we were playing. I can see it very similar. Obviously, things we need to be concerned about. It is at Livy, so the usual concerns around the pitch and so forth. But obviously, the way that they play, and Andrew, you've touched on it beautifully, they'll be lumping it forward, need to keep two of the back three in place at all times. Yeah, definitely. And you can see it's been something we've been susceptible to throughout Nancy's time in charge, and it's something that they'll prey upon. And you can absolutely bet your bottom dollar on that. So it'll be interesting to see how we go. Robert Gibson, Livy are hard to break down, like my mum's drinking buddies. Oh dear. Your girl Bonnie, good to see you in the comments, of course. Brother Wilford will prevail. Love the positivity, Bonnie. Definitely think it's warranted with how we're going. Kev, yep, tough game against 10 in the box, and it will be interesting to see how we go. So obviously I thought we probably where we looked a little bit sort of short of a trick, if you will, against Aberdeen was when they actually did sit back after they'd scored the equaliser. I didn't think we were awful. I still thought that we were doing a good job of trying to work the ball and get it into the right areas, but they did make it hard. Livy, I think it's pretty much expected we'll do that from the get-go. And then try and hit us on the break or lump it forward and try and catch out our centre-half pairing. So that high line and keeping on top of that's going to be really, really crucial. Bonnie, Shin must get a chance now, surely. Yep, absolutely. I think he gets the starting. He gets to start as number 9 against Livy, absolutely. I can't see how Kenny gets that spot. I don't mean to hang him out to dry a little bit, but you can't miss that many opportunities. And I think you expect to start when you've got Yamada sitting there waiting to potentially show his worth, particularly before January coming up. Yamada looks a bit excitable. Needs to find composure, same as Yang did at one point, but he's getting that under control now. She needs to calm down. I want to give Yang a shout out, and obviously there's a fair few people as part of the Celtic Down Under group who are part of the quote unquote Yang gang, and credit to Yang, he was again pretty decent yesterday. He was crucial to that first goal, and the work rate was really impressive. He initially lost the ball, he goes and wins it back, and that work rate alone is what leads to the opportunity which we score from. But he hasn't looked anywhere near as exposed in this system as I thought he would. He's actually adapted to it quite well. And prior to that, he'd actually put in a couple of positive performances under Brendan as well. So Yang, I think it's fair to say that maybe had transfer windows been in, seasons gone by, including early this season being different, he might not have been here. And that's a very fair comment. But with his opportunity, he's stuck around. He's been given the opportunity, and he's taking it. And credit to him, because he's been quite good, very very solid. At least if you want to be, if you don't want to be as positive as me, he's been very solid. So. I won't bring that comment up on the screen, Bonnie. I try and keep it PG as much as possible, but I appreciate the comment. Yang's coming on. Yes, absolutely, Andrew. Definitely agree. And the positivity that I think is coming through for his performances is really well worthwhile as well. Just looking through a couple of other comments. A couple of discussion about the age in the comments after I brought up Robert's one earlier. Shout out to everyone in the comments who's the big 6-0 or nearing the big 6-0. It's a milestone. So yeah, good on you. Good on you, gang. In terms of results, look, I think we will go and get the win. I'm not exactly sure it will be a hammers down 4-0, 5-0 result, but I can see us definitely getting the win. I'm full of positivity. The more I'm talking tonight, the more positive I'm getting. So I'm going to say we win 2-0. I reckon Yamada gets a goal to justify his start, and then I think Maeda gets on the end of one. But I think we'll probably control the game and we'll dominate, to be honest with you. So, that's where my thinking's at. Just having a look through the comments, if there's anything more to maybe bring up. Oh, there's one from Bonnie. When does Sinisalo get a chance? Not too sure at this stage. I'm pretty big on Casper personally. I know not everybody is. I still think his leadership's still pretty important, particularly while this team is trying to find its feet. I think Casper's leadership is still quite vital. There's no doubt that he was quite poor in the cup final for a couple of the goals. And look, I don't really blame him for yesterday, to be honest with you. Maybe he could have done a little bit better, but I wouldn't necessarily go down the Sinisalo path just yet. He should definitely be involved in the cup comps, though, at the very least. So when we come into the Scottish Cup, Sinisalo should be getting the starting goalkeeper spot then. And so I'd like to see that at the very least. If Casper's starting in the cup, I'd be really concerned about what that means for Sinisalo going forward. I'd be thinking that he's out the door, or perhaps would be looking to head out the door. Michael won't like the surface. Nobody does, so he won't be alone in that boat. But agree with your comment in terms of the game. Absolutely. Something I want to circle back to very quickly if I can, which is I suspect Maeda will be sold January. It's probably something I didn't touch on, which is I think a lot of us are probably of the opinion that Dyson might not necessarily be around once we get into January or past January, and that if we're going to sell him now, it's probably the time that he's at his peak value. It will be very interesting to see how that goes. I must admit he looked really good against Aberdeen. The energy that he showed was great. The fight for the ball. I know that they sound like a little bit like buzzwords, but I thought he looked excellent, and was hoping that maybe secretly deep down that might be a sign that he might want to stay. I'm not too sure. I think the more discussion around this is more about his value, and I guess at what level it is, and whether we would look to cash in on that, not just necessarily around him. So obviously, if Dyson goes, we're probably looking for a left winger as well. So January will be very interesting. Smell the glove. I think Morata will stay after the World Cup. It is definitely a risk moving this close with the World Cup coming up, moving to a team where you might not be first choice or might not get minutes. You're going to want to make sure you're getting minutes and you're match ready for the World Cup. He'll definitely get that at Celtic. So that's a really good move. In fact, Pork Chop Express, you've probably just doubled down that point as well. He said he wants to stay. Be stupid selling him before summer. Yep, I think that's a very fair comment. It'll be interesting to see how that goes. Hopefully he does stay. Where was Atate? Sorry, Andrew, you did bring this up before. I neglected to bring it up. I'm not too sure. I didn't actually look at that, and I don't have that offhand. I struggle to see how he gets in at the moment, just with how things worked. I thought the balance was quite good against Aberdeen, but I still rate Rio. I still think he's a very good player. I still think I put him in a very similar category to Arne Engels, which is I see them as two players that are really have the quality to bite off that pass that not many others would. That's not necessarily saying he isn't wasteful, and sometimes those passes don't come off. But he's still gonna be adventurous with the ball, and I think in Nancy's system that is going to work once more of that that connectivity and fluidness actually works together, and we see it on the pitch. So I wouldn't count Rio out just yet. So all good. So yeah, we definitely had a couple of comments. The last one I'll bring up, which was on Sinisalo, just on your comment, Tim, which I've just scrolled down too far from. Here we go. The point of bringing Sinisalo in was to get him ready to take over. When does that start? Very fair question. It's possible that, as I said, I think one of the big things for Casper is his leadership at the moment in this new system, and just making sure we've got some strong leaders on the pitch. And I thought we saw a little bit more evidence of that yesterday than we had in the previous couple of matches. So maybe, as I said, I think the Scottish Cup, if you're not seeing Sinisalo in the Cup, definitely be worried about his long-term future at Celtic, but we should definitely see him there. And after that, I think Sinisalo is probably our number one for next season. So all good. All right. Well, look, thank you for joining me, everyone. I've waffled on a fair bit tonight. I appreciate all the comments. I appreciate everybody jumping on board. It's been great to have you all in the comments. Keep me company while I do the solo pod tonight. I hope I didn't waffle on too much for you all. I made sure to write some notes beforehand to try and keep it as concise as possible and not go off any weird tangents. But no, in all seriousness, it was great to be with you all tonight to go through a few things and talk all things Celtic. Appreciate your support in the comments. As I said earlier, if you like what you've heard, please hit that subscribe button. And if you don't like what you've heard, please hit that subscribe button nonetheless. Only joking, of course, but yeah, it's definitely good to get more people on board. So please share the channel, get a few more people aware of Celtic Down Under. We love getting new people in the comments. We love getting new people commenting on the YouTube vids, and it's great to get more people involved in what we do. So yeah, what I want to do, I'll stick to my final thought, which is thank you all for joining me. It is Christmas coming up at the end of this week, so I just wanted to wish all of you in the comments and everyone tuning in a very Merry Christmas. I hope it's a good one, a special one, a safe one for all of you, wherever you are in the world, whatever you might be up to. Thank you all for tuning in once again. Merry Christmas to you all. We'll be back next Monday. Until then, hail, hail.